Hello, I'd like to introduce you to my fortepiano, to fortepianos in general, how they're different from modern pianos and from harpsichords, a little bit about how they're built and their history, and you'll hear some sample music that I play on it. So what is a fortepiano anyway? If people come to my place, they see I have a harpsichord on the one side and then I have this, and they say, so what, do you have two harpsichords? And I say, well, no, this is a fortepiano. So the next question is, what's the difference between a piano and a fortepiano? The piano was invented in the early 18th century by an Italian harpsichord builder by the name of Bartolomeo Cristofori. And the idea of this mechanism is that harpsichords have quills plucking strings. The piano has hammers hitting strings. So the faster the hammer is moving, the louder the dynamic of the note that's being played. That's the disadvantage of the harpsichord, that you can't adjust the dynamics. So the original name for the piano was clavicembalo col fortepiano, which is basically a harpsichord, because they didn't know what else to call it, that does both loud and soft by virtue of this hammer. But this word fortepiano, which basically means any precursor to the modern piano dating from about 1870, that means that fortepiano basically covers 130, 140 years worth of technological change. So fortepiano can be, like this piano, which has 5 octaves. You can have 5, 5.5, 6, 6.5 octave pianos. You can have a piano that goes from A to A. It doesn't have the extra range up to the high C that a modern piano has. All these could be called fortepianos. This is a piano of a Viennese tradition. There's a German Viennese tradition, and there's an English and French tradition that values a different quality of sound and slightly different materials. And all these could basically be called fortepianos. So fortepiano means an early piano. It means a lot of different things. This one, if I had to say specifically, this is a copy of a 1785 piano by the Viennese builder Anton Walter, and this was built by the Utrecht builder Gerard Tuinman. So let's talk nuts and bolts in this section. What exactly is different about this piano? What's it made of, and how does it work? Obviously, this fortepiano is smaller than a modern piano. Its range is only 5 octaves, from F to F. On the fortepiano here, there are only 2 strings per note for most of the range, whereas on a modern piano, most of the range has 3 strings per note. On a fortepiano, all the strings in the bass are parallel to one another, whereas on a modern piano, they're crossed. Crossed strings are good to bring all the sound into the middle of the soundboard and resonate together richly. Parallel strings are good for clarity. The damper pedal is operated by the knee, which lifts the damper rail off of the strings. There is what we would call today a soft pedal, or in old terms, a moderator, and it's operated by this lever. It brings a layer of felt between the hammers and strings, creating a much quieter sound of an ethereal quality. So if we think about this history of piano development in which the tone became much longer and the attack became more covered, this is all good for playing very long-lined romantic singing music, Chopin nocturnes, for example. So certainly we could look at that as a sign of progress, but in fact there's also some disadvantages to the modern pianos, which I believe there are facets of music that these earlier pianos can do better. And naturally, these are the very properties of music that composers of the classical style exploited all the time in their piano music. So this would be music of Haydn or Mozart or early music of Beethoven, where it's very rare to have very long sustained lines, but there are a lot of examples where you have short notes that are cut off. You have intermediate length notes where this decay of the early piano is actually a tremendous advantage. So I'm going to show you a little bit of a Beethoven sonata here where there's very lively articulation, and this piano gives you a very exciting and rhythmic feel. Of course, a piano like this that only has 5 octaves is a disadvantage because there's a lot of music that you can't play on it. However, the music that does fit onto this compass sounds wonderful on it because the high part of the piano sounds very high and the low part of the piano sounds very low. So you have a sense that you're running out of space, and each register has its own distinct quality. It doesn't sound like it's all in the middle. So I'm going to play you a little bit of Mozart where you can hear the composer using these registers to great advantage. You'll notice that a lot of these pieces that I've played so far, I haven't been using the pedal in the way that you're used to hearing modern piano playing uses the pedal almost all the time. If you're playing a forte piano, operating this mechanism here is a little bit more difficult than moving a modern piano pedal with your foot. However, Beethoven, in his early piano music already, was starting to crave this connected sound and the warmth of the pedaled sound. So I'm going to show you a little bit of the kind of music that he was writing that was very different in its use of the pedal. One of the remarkable aspects of the Viennese piano tradition is how many different pedals and gadgets that they like to use. They'd have a pedal for 3 strings, 2 strings, 1 string, and as we discussed before, they have the moderator that puts the cloth between the hammer and the string and gives this muted, otherworldly sound. And what better way to use that than Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata? Apart from the full use of register, another way that Mozart would create a virtuosic style is by having just very rapid notes, very many attacks in succession, so you can get the most of this leather hammer hitting string. So I'll show you a little bit of that in his Sonata K332. So I hope you've got a good idea now of piano history and traditions, and you'll have a little bit of an idea of what this piano can do, and perhaps maybe you'd like to go to a live performance of mine on this Fortepiano. I'll give you a little teaser of that with a complete performance of Mozart's Gigue in G major. Thanks for watching.